Hey everybody, welcome to this quick session as Google as graphic design for you or your kids in the classroom. So as you can see, I have this nice, first let's do introductions. I'm Dan Mars. I am an instructional tech and a state and federal programs director for Coloma Community School in Southwest Michigan. I'm also a delegate to the MACUL and then also the executive director of the Michigan Educational Technology Specialist or METS group that's putting on this winter rally. So super excited that you could be here and join us for that. And hopefully this video kind of hits home on something that you can help your kids be a little more creative and get them working on some different type of projects in your classroom. So as you can see, the date is not yet Valentine's Day, so I'm working on my Valentines, and you can see that I have this nice spaceman, the moon, some stars, and a you're out of this world Valentine type message, right? You can kind of see that this is all in Google Slides, and what I'm going to do in the course of the next couple minutes is walk you through exactly how you can do this in your classroom with your kids without having them leave Google Slides. So what I'm going to do is open up a brand new Google Slides by going to slides.new to get this started. As that loads, you can see that I have a text box and it's suggesting what theme do you want to use. I don't need a theme, and I also don't need text boxes. So I'm going to highlight both of those and delete them and get them off of my screen so that I have a wonderful blank canvas to look at. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go File, Page Setup. And when I do that, instead of widescreen, instead of standard, I'm going to go down and I'm going to choose custom. File, Page Setup, Custom. And when I do that, I can type in any size I want to. I just want to be able to print it and give it to somebody special. So I'm going to do 8.5 by 11. And there we go. Now you can see that I have my whole slide there, but if I'm not comfortable working with that, one thing I personally like to do, and I like to show my kids as well, is that I like to zoom out just a touch so I can kind of see everything. You can see I'm currently at fit, which is 72%. I'm going to bump it out to 50 so that I can kind of see my whole canvas and everything that I'm working with. Now, we're in outer space, so I'm going to change the background to black so that it is outer space-y. Right? What I'm going to do next is I'm going to create my lunar surface because that's in the background. So I'm starting to think of graphic design, and one of the examples I love to give my kids is think of it like a pizza and you're building up, right? So the first thing I put down, my background, that's my crust, right? The moon, that's going to be something that my space person is standing on, as well as the stars, he's standing in front of those. So that's going to be the sauce. And then when I add my space person and my text box, that's kind of the cheese. And anything else I want to add on top of that is going to be toppings that block the view of the cheese. So it's a really important way for me to kind of look at this with my kids and be able to explain it, even to the youngest learners, how this works, because they all understand pizza. So here I'm going to go shape. I'm going to add that shape. I'm going to create a nice big circle, right? It's not a perfect circle because, well, it doesn't need to be perfect. We're not going to see the whole thing. Maybe you're sitting there saying, hey, dude, I can see the edges. That doesn't look good. That's not something that's going to work. Keep in mind that everything that people are going to see when you're printing this or sharing this is right here in the thumbnail preview. So on the thumbnail preview, it looks like a nice lunar surface. There's some angle to it. Again, if I want, I can change the flatness of it. I can lower it and kind of have more space in the background. It's kind of all there, right? So far, I've got one thing there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some craters. So I'm going to go back up to that shape. I'm going to choose a circle, and I'm going to just draw some circles here, and I'm going to change the color so that they are darker, right? So I'm going to put them all over the place. I'm going to Control-C, Control-V, change the size, right, so that they look a little different. Definition to that lunar surface that we've just created, and I can move that around. And again, if you need to see what it looks like when all is said and done, check out that thumbnail preview. Right? Turns out I think this is too dark for the lunar surface. It really stands out, and that bothers me. It's taking away my attention, so I'm going to make it a little bit lighter and be happy with just that. So here we go. I've got my lunar surface. I've got everything there. My next step, this is one of those important parts when we work with layers that I like to do and like to stress to the kids, is I want to click and drag. So I start off on the side, I click and I drag, and I highlight all of that stuff. And then I do my right click and I choose to group them. So now it's all a single group that I can move as one if I need to. But it also means that if I make a mistake, it's all together. And it's a lot easier to fix. Not like 6 different things move at one time. It's a single keystroke of Control Z. Next up, I need to put my stars in the background, right? So I'm going to go back up to this shape. Now, if I look in shapes, you'll see, hey, there's no stars. There's a sun, which is an option. We could put a sun in there. I could also put another moon in there, but I think that's going to get a little confusing. What I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at callouts. And I've got a couple different star shapes. Here's the first one. So what I have here is just a nice little shape. I'm going to change the color to yellow because that's how we depict a lot of stars, is yellow. I'm going to drag it over, and then I'm going to kind of create a couple of these to kind of be in the background of different places on this screen. I probably don't want to keep them like all, like in a row, because that's not how stars really are. And they're different sizes because they twinkle at different rates, all that stuff, right? And as I kind of close this out and kind of see that I've got some stars there. Now I do know that there's one other star shape that I want to use. All right, and I'm going to make that a different shade of yellow. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click and drag to group all of these things together with my right click so that it is there and in one spot. And again, that gives me the freedom to kind of be able to move this. If I'm like, I want to make sure that everything is centered, everything looks good. There we go. Here we are. Right, so we have these two things. In fact, I can even do my click and drag to the whole thing and create one big group of everything. So there we go. I have that big group. Everything is now attached, which again kind of acts as that background for me to work. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go insert, I'm going to choose image, and I'm going to search the web. I know that there's a ton of websites and they probably have way better stuff that's way easier to find. But sometimes I want to keep my kids in the same spot so that they don't get off task or do something different that they shouldn't do. So here's that search the web really quick, and I'm going to just type in Spaceman Transparent. All right, because I want a transparent background on that spaceman. I've got a couple options here. You can see I can go cartoony. You can see that I can go super cartoony. You can see that I can go a lot of different things there. I'm going to choose this one first, and we're going to insert it. And if it doesn't have a transparent background, if it ends up not having a transparent background, that's okay, right? I just get rid of it and do a different one. But here we go. I can kind of shrink him down a little bit. He's a little big, all right? And I put him right there. He's now standing on the lunar surface, right? It's exactly what it looks like. And the next thing that I have is he's standing in front of some stars. It's coming together. It's starting to look like a Valentine that I could send to somebody I care about. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a different shape. And this one's going to be in the callouts. When you look in the callouts, you have the stars, but you also have your bang pows if you are doing your comic books, right? And then you have thought bubbles and speech bubbles. I'm going to choose a nice rounded speech bubble, and I'm going to go there, and I'm going to kind of create it just so it sticks out just a touch, right? That's too big, right? It doesn't fit my project, so I'm going to make that a little bit smaller. And I'm going to change the color of it this time. Now, the first one didn't have that, but if we're doing a Valentine's Day thing, it's got to be some Valentine-y colors, right? So I'm going to do a nice solid pink. And I'm going to change the outline to white, right? And I'm going to make it a little bit heavier of an outline so that you can really see it. Nice pops off the page. So it's looking good so far, right? Now you've got two options here. You can do just simple text if you have like a longer text that you have to put in, or you can do shorter text in what they call word art. Now, if you're thinking back to Microsoft Office, late 90s, early 2000s word art, I don't want to disappoint you, but you're going to be a little disappointed, but it is still pretty cool. So I can say something like, "You're outa," right? And it says, if I hit enter, it's going to save, but if I need to do a different line, and I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I can do a different line, right? And I'm going to do that right there. I'm just going to say, "You're out of this." I didn't put world in yet, and I'm shrinking it, and it's kind of fitting into that space, right? I'm kind of getting it there. What I can do next is I can then change that font too. And I have all of the fonts that are available on Google at my disposal, right? I don't like the way calligraphy looks, so I'm going to go with my standard, my favorite font available, the Nanuto Sans. And I'm going to get that nice and positioned right there. And I'm going to change the color of that too. I want to make it purple. I don't want to make it purple. It doesn't pop. That's part of graphic design. So when you're working with these kids and they get stuck or they get upset, just remind them, like, hey, it's not perfect. Like, it's not perfect. You might have to try this a couple times. Now, what I'm going to do on the next one is I'm going to add some more word art again. And I'm going to put the last one in, which is world. And I'm going to make it all capitalized so it has that kind of bold text looking thing. I'm going to get that in position. I'm going to shrink it so that it fits. You can see it's a different font, and that's an option that you have, obviously, if you want to have two different fonts there. I'm going to go to the one that I used. I'm going to make it bold. I'm going to make it fit in that box one more time. As I do that, you can kind of see, there it goes. You're out of this world. I can change this to be a nice shade of red for Valentine's Day with a nice white border. Maybe I want to do that up here as well. We'll make that a nice shade of red with a red border, right? Oh, we're going to do a white border. It doesn't look good, and that's okay, right? You're kind of exploring, right? And as you do that, you can, again, make it thicker so that it pops. You can change the width of those lines so that it's there. You can even change the type of lines if you wanted. Thanks for tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of your week and a wonderful rest of the school year.